would play it so much on television. And in the area that I was in, we would watch either Channel 5 or Channel 11, and I don't even know those channels are, in existence anymore, but I just remember them playing that commercial. You're the best of the class this year. But what a lot of y'all fail to realize is that perhaps, come on now, because this is going to resonate in somebody's spirit. Was that a message? A subliminal message intended for you, and you just didn't even know it at the time. You gotta see, it's just little things that resonate in your spirit when you think back over your life sometimes. Or sometimes, you ever heard a song, and when the song came out, it was all right, but you weren't all that excited about it. And then years later, after you have had a few battles under your belt, after you've all gone through a few things, and you hear that song again, it hits kind of different, doesn't it? It hits different. It could be a love song. It could be a gospel song. It could be an R&B song. It could be whatever. But if you listen to a song when it first come out, and then listen to it again 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, doesn't it hit a little differently sometimes? It's almost like if you hear a song, and for those who have never been married or never been in a serious relationship, you hear the song and be like, oh, that's a nice song. I love that song, blah, 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 blah. But then after you've lived your life and experienced some things, and if you hear that song again, you're like, wait a minute. Now that song hit differently now. You know what I'm saying? After some of you've been through 1, 2, or 3 divorces. After some of you've been cheated on by multiple men or multiple women. And you go back and listen to that song, you be like, wait a minute, I know what that person was singing about now. Or I know what that artist was talking about now. Or even if it's a gospel song, you could be like, oh, Lord, I'm a living witness. Oh, yes, Lord, he will always make a way, da, da, da. Whereas before you liked the song, but you really couldn't relate to the song because you hadn't faced any type of Goliath, or you hadn't really gone through anything that had to slay any dragons. But after you slayed a couple of dragons and stepped on the heads and crushed the heads of a couple of snakes, and you go back and listen to that gospel song again, it hits differently, doesn't it? It hits differently. So, that commercial came to mind. You're the best of the class this year. Enough said. You're the best of the class this year. For many of you, your graduation year, you were the best of the class. Even if you didn't walk across that stage and graduate, for many of you out there, you were the best of the class for that year. And you didn't even know it. You see how messages can be put out, and you just don't even pay it no mind, but then it'll be brought back to your memory a while later, and you'll be like, wait a minute, yeah, I was the best of the class that year. And that's not even what I'm saying that the commercial was directed towards, but I'm just saying, sometimes things can resonate in the spirit. You hear little certain things, it's like it'll trigger something, but it'll be a good trigger, it won't be a bad trigger. Well, see, you're not the only one that knew you were the best of the class that year. The devil knew you were too. And God always knew you were a, figuratively speaking, shining star. Or maybe literally, because let me tell you, as I've stated in my other conference, I haven't done any research on it, but I don't doubt it, that there are elements that are located in the substance of stars in the sky that can be found and discovered in human DNA. So Father was busy. He was busy. I guess he was saying, let me take a little bit of this stardust up here and put it in the atom. And he's a creator. He's always creating things a lot of us have never even laid our eyes on, as many of you know. So if Father is capable of doing all of that, why not trust him with every breath that you take? Why not trust him in every battle that you face? Why not trust him in the face of every Goliath that you will slay in Jesus' name? God is letting you know right now today, you can trust me all the way. It is humanity that you cannot trust, because people will grin in your face and they will talk trash about you behind your back. Why? Because that's envy a lot of times. That's jealousy a lot of times. That's resentment a lot of times. Because the ought that they have against many of you out there is not justified, especially if it's people that you don't even associate with. you don't even speak to, you don't even think about. But they're somewhere meditating on you. Now, that's not anything you should be concerned about or care about, but it goes to show you your quality and your substance, that you would attract that type of emotion from somebody, or pull that type of emotion out of somebody. It shows you who you are. If you want to know who you are, all you have to do is look at how your enemies treat you. Because like I said, nobody's going to want to come up against somebody that's a wimp and already drugged through the mud. No, people want to take down things that are erect. People want to take down things that are royalty. People want to take down things that are superior, not inferior. Superior and inferior are opposites. That which is inferior is threatened by that which is superior. And that's not making a boast, saying that we are all up with God, on the level of God. But there are certain people on this planet that have a higher status than others. And I'm not talking about finances. No, that's a man-made tool. I don't care anything about that. I'm talking about who you are as an individual, your substance. You being you, your very being is a threat to somebody. And that is why your enemies come up against you. And I remember that well, let me reflect back a little bit. My enemies would just sit and stare at me. Back in high school, they would just sit and stare. Just maybe not say anything, just stare. You can look at them, they stare. Look at them, they stare. Because I was a threat. And for anybody out there, if that was your experience, most likely it was because you were a threat. You were different. They knew that you were not what they were. And I didn't really pay people any mind back in the day, but I can remember actually looking at different countenances in that high school and thinking, they got a different look than I got, or I got a different look than they have. And I'm not talking about style or fashion or anything, because it was not anything too fashionable or stylish that came through that school. Now, I'm not saying there wasn't anybody that was not stylish and fashionable, of course, but for the ones that thought they had it going on, they didn't. But I'm talking about spiritually speaking, because see, I didn't realize it was a spiritual thing, because I just noticed they had a certain look, but I never had that look. And by that I mean, I always looked very humble. And I noticed that the countenances of the other people, they just had a certain look. And now that I think back, and now that I, have a spiritual knowledge about things, I know that look was a demonic look that they had. That's the difference that I was seeing, and I couldn't put my finger on it. It was just, they always had this look like they were ready to, I don't know, they're a bad attitude look. I don't know how to explain it. But then I always had this humble countenance. And I knew that was, I'm like, well, I don't have this maybe expression that they have all the time on their faces. You know what I'm saying? So I knew I was different than that junk. And they knew I was different. But see, a lot of times when you have a humble countenance, people think you are a punk. They think you're a pushover. They think you're scared of them. They think they can bully you or whatever. And it's not until you take it to the streets on them that you let them know, look, no, you found out I really wasn't the one, didn't you? Have you ever had somebody shoot their mouth off, and then when either they step to you or you step to them and you don't back down, they do? I've experienced that too. So I've never had a problem standing my ground, even in high school. If you step to me, then you're giving me the impression you want to do something to me. So now I've got to stand my ground. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to get into what the situation was, but the other person walked away. I didn't. I was still talking smack. So looks can be deceiving. And a lot of people have found that out the hard way, that looks can be deceiving. Oh, I can kick her tail. I'm bigger than her. Okay, you can go over there and mess with that little chick if you want to. You can go over there and mess with that dude if you want to, because you think you're more big or more bulkier than him or whatever. Watch how you might end up. Watch how you might end up, because you can't mess with everybody. You can't judge a book by its cover. You cannot judge a book by its cover. And then, when you start speaking out, people go, oh, well, I thought he was quiet. I thought she was quiet. Yeah, they are.